I get to talk about the most powerful tool that the founders gave us, and that is jury nullification. You heard about states' rights today and states having the ability to nullify tyranny from the federal government, but each and every one of us has this power to nullify tyranny at all levels of government, and it's through the jury box. Thomas Jefferson his name was invoked quite a few times today, and I'm going to do it again. So this could be called a Constitutional Thomas Jefferson meeting. And Thomas Jefferson impressed us all with many quotes, but for me it was his quotes regarding tyranny that were most impressive. I've got 5 of them here I'm going to read. He said, "The strongest reason for the people to retain the right to keep and bear arms is as a last resort to protect themselves against tyranny in government." He also said that all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Enlighten the people generally, and tyranny and oppressions of body and mind will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. This is my favorite Jefferson quote on tyranny. "I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man." And then my second favorite quote, "I consider trial by jury as the only anchor ever yet imagined by man by which a government can be held to the principles of its Constitution." This is a power that's escaped us for the last 100 years, and even it started escaping us in the century before. This power came to us by virtue originally of the Magna Carta, and then through some famous trials, one in England, the trial of William Penn, where William Penn was on trial for preaching in the streets where his church had been padlocked. He was prohibited from preaching in his church. And he broke the law and went in, preached in the church, outside of the church, outside of the locked doors, and was put on trial. And the penalty for his crime was death if found guilty. His jury, 12 jurors, found him not guilty of the crime, yet he broke the law. And the judges, there's the 3-panel judges as well as the jury there, they sent the jury back to re-deliberate. They didn't like the verdict. Yep. And then they refused to convict. Good. They were sent back again, and through all this time where they were sent back to deliberate, it was days. And they were sent there without food, water, or even toiletry provisions. They're supposed to go in the corner. Right? Well, the townspeople smuggled up food and water and everything else to them, and they still refused to convict. So the judges decided they were fed up. They decided, okay, that's it. They fined the jury for their verdict. Yeah. 4 of the jurors refused to pay the fine. And then they were thrown into the Old Bailey prison. And that Old Bailey prison, look it up on the internet, it was a hellhole. But they still insisted and would not pay that fine. Amen. So a long story short is they hired a famous barrister to go around the normal process and go through a court that didn't usually hear these kinds of things. And the decision that came out was that a jury could not be punished for its verdict. So that came to us through into America. It came to us. We had a similar trial here where somebody was being tried for libel because they said the truth about a public official. And in that case, as the case of Peter Zenger, basically the same thing happened. The jury refused to convict. And throughout our history, we've had this, like the Fugitive Slave Act that was referred to earlier. people refusing to convict people who had helped runaway slaves. Okay? Now, one of the reasons that this has fallen out of vogue in the current system is that through our education system, the attorneys, all of us, are taught that you have to judge only the facts. You're not allowed to judge the law. Okay? And I'm one of these guys who always gave the teachers trouble all the way through school. And I didn't buy that because it didn't make sense. If Jefferson said it was an anchor against tyranny and government, how could it be possibly true that you could not judge the law as well? And of course, you know, the history of where it came to America from. So in studying a long time ago, maybe about 20 years ago, I got involved with the anti-tax tyranny movement, and I found out that there was this dictionary, Webster's Dictionary of 1828. So from that point forward, I started studying the Constitution, but I used that dictionary. And in that dictionary, it defines a jury as 12 people in criminal cases who are empowered to judge the facts as well as the law. So that's the definition of jury. Now people will argue, what's the jury's power? I say, it's not an argument what their power is. That is what they are. That is the definition of a jury. If I wanted to buy a stallion from you and you gave me a gelding, you didn't give me a stallion. And in America today, when the judges tell the jury that they can't judge the law, they are taking away your trial by jury. It's just that simple. Now people will say, oh no, you've got to obey the law. If you don't like the law, change it. Well, here's something that we need to understand in that process. That's true, I agree with that. If you don't like the law, change it. But the truth is that American law is based on the Declaration of Independence, and it's based on the principle that governments are instituted among men to secure our rights. And laws, Frederick Bossett's book, The Law, recommend you get it. If you haven't got it, you need to read this right along the Constitution. This gives you the basis for what law is, and it's all on the basis of securing your rights. If either the federal legislatures or the state legislature or your local municipality writes something they call a law, it's not a law, it's a perversion. So if you say, and you're sitting on a jury and you say, not guilty, and they're saying, oh, you got to obey the law, whatever. That's not the law, it's a perversion. If that particular ordinance is designed to take away somebody's rights, it's a perversion of the law. I'll give you an example. I haven't paid income taxes for 20 years.
Yeah.
I haven't smoked marijuana for over 30 years. All right? In one case, they say there's laws against marijuana, smoking marijuana, okay? Well, that's a perversion of the law. Frankly, what you do with your own body is your own business, right? So if somebody's on trial for a marijuana crime and that's all, if you say not guilty, they just didn't break any law, even if there's some ordinance on the books. And the same thing, it's a little different with the income tax. It's not that there's a perversion of the law in the income tax. There's a perversion of how they apply something that doesn't even exist. I'm taking a little bit of Paymon's thunder because he's going to talk about that. But it's not even a perversion of the law with the income tax. It's a perversion of the system. Because if you have a right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and slavery and voluntary servitude is outlawed in this country, then they don't own your body and they don't own your labor. So there's another example that we have the power just to stand up and say no. No to the federal government, no to the state governments. You know, part of the problem we talk about the states nullifying the federal government is we need to nullify the state governments. You know, the types of agencies that they have, and we talk about Obamacare coming down and how can the states nullify it. Look in there and look at it. How many places in there that they need to enforce the Obamacare through the Internal Revenue Code. The Internal Revenue Code was modified, I don't know how many times, a couple hundred times in the Obamacare legislation. So that you just say no to government tyranny and it will vanish like Thomas Jefferson said. And you say no to, well, yeah, I lost it there, but You just say no to government tyranny. Tyranny is the opposite of on that. Thomas Jefferson, and I'm looking at this and I'm studying this stuff and not just, just not taking it off of a whim. What does he mean by all these words? What did he mean by tyranny? He didn't mean that we had people that were putting us in chains and whipping and beating us. He meant tyranny, a tyranny over the mind of man. He meant where the government was taking control over something they had no right to take control over. That's tyranny. And see, and government is not supposed to do that. It's supposed to secure our liberties. Yeah. So in the essence of your power through the jury box, what I'm asking you to do is get involved. The Fully Informed Jury Association is just what it is. It means that jurors should be informed of their rights, their powers, and their duties. And if you're sitting on a jury and they want you to convict somebody for a crime, my daughter slapped her boyfriend. She was on trial for domestic violence because she slapped her boyfriend. Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have laws against battering people, but I watched a bunch of movies while that trial was going on, and I was seeing some of the women slapping the men in the movies. They were old movies, and because the man got out of line. And, we solved those issues ourselves. But long and short of it, that jury convicted her, and she's got a 10-year firearm prohibition. Okay? Federal firearm prohibition. This was a state superior court case. So as jurors, if you're going to vote your conscience, and this is something that we've been given to us by God, this is what to me this stuff is simple. I mean, I wouldn't need to study all this history. It's just, I've got a conscience, this smells like a rat, I'm not doing it, or dead rat. So, getting involved, here's a place where we do have our power. I do a lot of things. I campaign for Ron Paul. I run for Congress. I even recommended that all my followers support Shillian in the last election. Yeah. But the thing that I think I probably do that's most valuable is educate people about their rights and powers in the jury box. Because you know what? Maybe you can't overturn a tyrannical government, but you can save one life. That's right. One person from going to prison when they don't deserve to go to prison. And this is the only reason we have more people imprisoned in this country than any other civilized country on the planet per capita, is because we don't know our power and we don't exercise it. If the judges the judges will tell you, anybody here disagree with the law? They want to exclude you off the jury. So you need to find your way to get on that jury, and then maybe just say, no, I think the law is okay. But you think that you're really agreeing that law is okay, not a perversion of the law. Get on the jury and save us a ton of money. They got people that they're imprisoning for minor drug offenses that are breaking the state, among other things that they're breaking the state with. So that's pretty much it. Use your power. Fully Informed Jury Association, my stuff's right there. All right, thank you, folks.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. The next gentleman that is going to come and share with us today